Uniform show. We are starting the MLB season and we're wrapping up the NBA regular season. We'll begin with Major League Baseball. The Minnesota Twins have new uniforms. They are the only team introducing a whole brand new uniform set. We'll give our thoughts on this. Let's start with their home white uniforms.
The hat is still very good. Not really a lot changed there. And overall, the home uniform is very clean. The Twins' name and numbers, the colors, the borders, piping on the sleeve and the pants, and the logo of Minnesota on the left sleeve in this case, Byron Buxton. But the number font is not particularly attractive, kind of pointy and jagged, doesn't work very well, complement the Twins' name very well. And then the Twins' name is just a bit thin, even though it is clean. Other than that, it's fairly good.
These are okay uniforms. The home, for me, they're very boring. They're very bland. They blend in with so many other teams in baseball because how many teams have blue and red uniforms? Many. And then how many teams have navy blue and red that come to mind? You think of the Red Sox, you think of the Braves, the Nationals, and even in their same division, the Guardians in the AL Central all have blue and red. And what's missing to me, if I could say, on this home uniform is pinstripes. Pinstripes, we love pinstripes in baseball, and when you remove them, they are missed.
Yes.
And that is the one thing, if I'm going to narrow it down to, on the home uniform that's lacking. There's nothing really wrong with it, but giving it pinstripes would help make it stand out more from the rest of these teams, especially a team like the Red Sox or the Braves. But I'm okay with this home uniform. It's just average. The road's a different story.
The road is reminiscent of the Kirby Puckett era road uniform that we grew up with watching in the 90s, the uniform set from the 80s and 90s. The way they go about positioning the Minnesota titles and the fact that they have some hint of pinstripes does remind you of those uniforms. But the Minnesota font isn't, again, particularly attractive, and the way it's slightly curved makes it a bit hard to read. So it's not particularly attractive. The striping and piping along the side of the pants and the sleeves do provide a little structure, which is good. It'll be interesting to see how much they do wear these with the Padres and Brewers in recent years, bringing back pinstripes only on the road, not at home, but not wearing them that much. Getting to the hat, though, this is the big weakness from my perspective. It's far too reminiscent and similar to the recently retired, just a couple years ago, 2020, I believe, Miami Marlins uniforms that they moved to their new ballpark with, the big blocky M. It's not that attractive of an M to begin with, and it just reminds me too much of those awful Marlins uniforms that were around for too long. Bring back the original M, the red M from the Kirby Puckett '80s, '90s era Twins, and that would be a lot better than this font.
Yeah, I'd say let's just go back to the Twins, the Kirby Puckett, Paul Molitor era. Let's go back and have them wear those again. Looking at the hats for both, the Twin Cities is fine I don't love it, but it's good enough for the home. The road uniform, the weakness is the hat. I mean, why would it's as the Twins? Why would you be looking to the Marlins? Just eliminate that. The rest of the uniform's okay for the road. The pinstripes, again, very faint. It's there. I don't care for the red belt at all for home or road. Blue. I mean, you should always have dark colors for belts, and the fact that Major League Baseball has gone with colored belts at times, and that's not what's wrong with baseball. It's like when the Giants were allowed to wear, some players in the Giants were allowed to wear orange belts. Like, come on. Black belts. Darker is always better.
Right.
For these standard uniforms, I would give them a grade of a C minus. What would you give them?
About the same, just C minus, C, average, for all the points you said. Colors are not that original, designs aren't that strong. And for this road hat, again, too, just strong, blocky, white M, and there's no white elsewhere except for in the middle stripe of the piping, striping on the sleeve of pants, so it just doesn't fit well with the gray.
And then how about these alternate uniforms? Well, let me say one thing with the alternate uniform is they get it right with the belt here on the Twin Cities one.
Right. And I would say, looking at the Twin Cities one, the first impression I get is it reminds me of the Royals. Currently, both home and road, long, cursive, fills the space very fully and nicely with the streak underneath it, giving it structure. But the numbers are placed too high, too close to that. They should drop them a little bit lower to fill in the empty space in the lower part of the jersey. And the fact that it is clean and simple with only the two colors, cream, which makes it different, and the navy blue does make it very easy to read and consistent. I suppose it could add a little bit of red somewhere, but I would say overall it's the strongest uniform.
Agreed.
The blue alternate is very reminiscent of Cleveland, a lot of other teams that have blue tops. And again, with the road uniform, the Minnesota font isn't that strong or attractive, so it's not that strong a uniform. And for me, I never want to see the road name used at home. I see here it is used at home, which has become more common in recent years. But for us growing up in the 90s, it was always home is the team name and road is the city name in most cases with most teams, not every team. And so this should not be worn at home, in my opinion. Just make a Twins lettering version of the dark blue for home. If it was going to happen with the new uniform rule, that can happen, so say just don't wear it at home.
Yeah, looking at this whole lineup, I don't really have anything to say about these alternates. But if you just put the Twin Cities home white hat on the road, that would be the best uniform.
Yes.
They just completely screwed it up by putting the wannabe Marlins hat on the road. And this sounds extreme, but we've had this conversation before. We haven't had it on this show. we're looking at NBA and MLB, and now even the NFL, there's too many alternates.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing if you have something really special or elite, and if you do, and it's better than your default standard uniforms, well, that's the indicator that should be your uniform,
Yeah.
not what you're wearing now. And when you look in the crowds, sometimes we say during the games, they're wearing better uniforms. Fans in the crowds are wearing better uniforms than the players on the field or the court,
Right.
and that shouldn't be. But getting back to the point I was going to make was there's just too many of these alternate uniforms. And if it was my call and decision, I would say every team, they can have alternate uniforms, but you can only wear them once a week. You can have one on the road, you can have one at home, but you can only wear it one time a week, and it should be sparingly worn, and it should be something special.
Right.
In baseball, I want there to be a white home, and I want there to be a gray road. That's just the clean, traditional look, and baseball is a traditional sport, and people have problems with that, but that's one of the things that I've always enjoyed most about baseball, because you have that tradition, and it's been said by certain individuals that, I think it was Damon Bruce actually who said this, which I always appreciated, was with all the sports, with the exception of baseball, present is more important than the past. Baseball is the one sport where the past is more important than the present.
Mm-hmm.
And I completely agree with that. And that's why things are and should be a little different in baseball versus the NFL and the NBA, if we're just looking at those three sports. If you want to say something radical that was done, how about the Indians in the 90s when they were wearing blue uniforms on the road in the World Series and at the All-Star game?
Right.
That was really radical and making a statement then. And I'm not all against them, but I enjoy just seeing white home and gray on the road. And if you asked me what looks best for your average baseball game, that's it. In the World Series, I'd prefer there not to be any colors at all.
Right. It's just a nicer, more professional consistency back and forth between white and gray, home and road, instead of jumbling up all these alternates, especially in the most important games of the year.
And that brings us to City Connect. That now we have this whole other group of uniforms, and what I said really sounds old-fashioned when you're bringing in these color uniforms that we were just talking about, but then on top of that you have color uniforms, you have turn-back uniforms, and then you have the City Connect uniforms. And for the last 2 seasons, we've had a select group of teams that chose to wear City Connect uniforms. And where did Major League Baseball get this idea from? Well, they got it from the NBA with City Edition uniforms that I do not like. I don't think they brought anything good to the world of uniforms in any way. City Connect, usually they are the ugliest and the worst uniforms in the NBA, and you have the same exact problem in Major League Baseball. It's, in many of these cases, it's something that is almost completely unrelated to the team's primary look, and they try to get away from it as far as they can. In some cases, they keep the same colors. Maybe they swap the primary with the secondary color, which you wish more teams would do if they had to do this. Or they go in a whole different direction. And that's what we have here with the Padres. A whole different direction, something that has never been done before. You just put some colors. It's just like giving a kid watercolors and they just throw it on the canvas. That's what it's like. Or to, finger paint. It's like finger painting, it's out of control. And that's what the Padres have here.
Yeah. And I hadn't really looked closely at these until now. I saw them passively, briefly on various websites, but didn't really want to look too close because I saw what was there. And now looking closer, it's this mash up of kind of a 60s, 70s, 80s, early 90s look of loud colors and fonts and design trend, and especially the green is just so weak and provides so little structure to the whole set, structure and contrast. That's the worst element to me. But then you have the inconsistency of one pink sleeve and one green sleeve, and the divided San Diego in two different colors, just a mess to the eyes. Even if they were to just use pink helmet with the green
No,
ST,
please, no pink helmet.
that would be better than this, but this is still awful in so many ways. It looks like something out of the circus.
Yeah, I've got one word to sum this up, and it's barf. Green can be done right, such as the Packers. Our favorite uniform probably in all of sports, at least the NFL. And I know many share that same opinion. It's nothing original. And then there's the Oakland Athletics, who have green, and I'm going to say it every single time, the Green Bay Packers and the Oakland A's. It's green and yellow. It's not gold. It's green and yellow. It can be done very well. And if you have that combination, you're going to be at the top of the league in uniform rankings. But this is green done wrong. And you have the two primary colors here are this green and pink. And I'm being very old-fashioned, and I'm not going to change my opinion on this. I'm going to maintain my position that there should be no pink in men's sports. No pink uniforms. There's never a reason. I fear that for the NFL. It's already happened in the NBA. Here you have it in Major League Baseball. And what the Padres achieve? Well, they designed a uniform, if you can call it a design, that no one's ever done before. And this is something that should not be copied. It should not be imitated. And then they throw in a third color here with some yellow in there. And then the belts. Look at these, even these belts. You have pink here, you have yellow here. Because I'm sure you could probably go, if you really want to, you probably could go with any of those colors, right?
Right.
Because there's no restrictions. And this was what was wrong with Major League Baseball. This is why this league was no fun, is because players weren't wearing things like that. I mean, look at this. I mean, yellow name, goofy, silly number there that's pink on the back. Ooh, I just feel sorry for these players, and they like it. I mean, if I wouldn't even know what to do if I was on the Padres. Demand a trade, having to wear these.
Yeah, and the only color that is even from their actual color set, their regular color set, is the yellow.
And the person I really feel bad for is Bob Melvin. We know the situation in Oakland is very bad for professional sports. But the good thing is, when you're in Oakland, the uniforms are excellent. Whether it was the Warriors who left for San Francisco, the Raiders who went to Las Vegas, but the team that stayed there, and I'm sure they won't be there much longer, the Oakland Athletics, have superb uniforms. And that's what Bob Melvin wore there. At least he had that going for him. And I know the Padres situation as far as the players and the personnel on the field is much better. But from a uniform standpoint and perspective, you go from wearing that and now you wear uniforms such as this. And in all fairness, this is not the standard uniform, but still, you go from those to at times wearing this experiment that went wrong.
Right. Never would have thought we'd seen Bob Melvin in a uniform like this, and there's been so much change.
I feel sorry.
And
No man who's even 50 or older should have to wear something like this, let alone someone who's 60 or 60 plus should not have to wear something like this.
yeah, we would not have foreseen him wearing anything like this back in the 2000s when we were watching him manage, and now there's been a lot of changes in baseball recently, but still would not have imagined him in a uniform like this.
So we'll get on to something else here, but we will gradually go through more of these City Connects as the season goes on. Some of the ones that teams have already worn over the last 2 years, and then we're going to get the whole group. I don't know if I could get through all 32 or all 30. If we were to go through all 30, I'd faint probably halfway through. NBA. Now here's something better. One of my all-time favorite NBA road uniforms was the Jazz from the late 90s. That's what I associate with Karl Malone and John Stockton more than anything. Some people aren't as wild about him, while others of us just love him and say, why'd you ever change?
Yeah, and these uniforms just have a nice color and structure with the piping and borders. The mountains actually do play a role and are significant to Salt Lake City. The titles, the numbers, they're unique, iconic, and then the alternates on the shorts as well. And the waistband stripe is really strong too.
Yeah, purple works really well in the NBA. I know you've said many times Paul Lucas doesn't like purple in the NFL, and I can understand that. In the NBA, purple works very well. And you have a team like the Lakers who have gotten away from wearing purple. The purple-yellow combination is great, but other teams have really capitalized on it. And when you think of turn-back uniforms, it's been such a great turn-back uniform season in the NBA, the best that I can remember. You have at least 3 teams that I can think of right now that have gone to the purple, and it looks great. I mean, you start off with the Suns. The Suns are as good as it gets for a road uniform. I like it even more than the Lakers, which is, I know it sounds crazy how much we like the Lakers standard uniforms. Then you have the Bucks that we talked about last time, and now you have the Jazz. And I wouldn't put the Jazz, I certainly wouldn't put the Bucks on the category of the Suns because of what I just said. I wouldn't put the Jazz, who are better than the Bucks, on the level of the Suns, but they're still very good. I'd consider them a top 10 road NBA uniform behind ones such as, the elite category. We talked already about the Suns, the Lakers for road color uniforms, Suns, Lakers, Celtics, Warriors, Bulls, Blazers, maybe 1 or 2 other teams. And we can compare it to what they had. And now we can compare this side by side to those who wore them originally. We have Karl Malone, John Stockton, the 2 greatest Jazz players any time, any era. And you think of them going up against the Bulls. And it's nothing to be ashamed of losing to Jordan's Bulls. But there are some slight differences here between the original and what we have now in 2023.
The Jazz name titles are a bit bigger, longer. on the originals, and the border of the numbers is darker on the originals and lighter on the current throwbacks, but not major changes, and definitely close enough to still be considered very highly as we do.
So I say bring them back and bring them back for good.
Especially with the current uniform set this year being so bad, the contrast is so large and wide between the current modern white and yellow, neon yellow, and these. Just bring back the white version of this and have the purple version. And if they want to have a throwback to New Orleans days, they could do that.
And then one more NBA uniform for today. This is one we didn't get to last time, but it's the turnback 90s Miami Heat uniform that, yes, it's not in the category of the best of the best either, but a huge upgrade over what is their standard default uniform now, and actually the one they're best known for. I like the numbers. It just jumps out more to me. I've always been unimpressed by what we've known as the Dwayne Wade, LeBron James championship team Heat uniforms.
Right, this just brings back the structure and contrast that's been lacking ever since they've been gone, with the piping and striping on the jersey and on the shorts. It's just so plain without it. And the Heat titles being also a bit stronger with the flame on the tee, and as you said, the numbers being bolder, the logo on the shorts, just a nice balance and contrast and arrangement of all the elements that really is a lot stronger than what they've had.
And then another key strength is the neck. They wear the vest. I do not like the vest. Give us the round neck. The vast majority of the top uniforms have that neck. That's one of the reasons why we even take the 90s Warriors over the current Warriors, because they get the neck right.
Right.
So it's been a fairly exciting and noteworthy time in uniforms between the NBA wrapping up its season and having so many great turnback, throwback uniforms, and now with Major League Baseball. NBA had as good of a throwback season as they can have. Baseball is not going to be pretty with these City Connects coming up. And what's amazing is we got through a whole episode without even talking about the NFL.